When one door closes, another one opens. It's a saying we've all heard. From teachers, motivational speakers, even that overly positive aunt. It sounds hopeful, like life is a hallway full of opportunities. Lose one, and another magically appears. But here's the uncomfortable truth. That only works if you were already standing in a hallway full of doors. For people with privilege, a closed door is rarely the end. Lose an unpaid internship? No problem. Mom's old roommate pulls some strings and suddenly a new opportunity swings wide open. But for someone struggling, living paycheck to paycheck, losing a minimum wage job can mean no rent money, an eviction notice, groceries you can't afford, and a downward spiral that's almost impossible to climb out of. And here's why this matters right now more than ever. The myth that everyone has equal opportunity isn't just misleading, it's weaponized. It's used to justify cutting safety nets, blaming the poor, and rolling back rights that people fought for. So today we're unpacking who actually gets another door when one closes, why opportunity compounds for the privileged while barriers pile up for everyone else, and why it's more urgent than ever to push back against the toxic narrative that says struggling is always your fault. Compounding opportunities versus compounding barriers. Opportunities don't exist in a vacuum. They compound. For the privileged, one open door almost always leads to another. For everyone else, one closed door can slam three more shut. Take college, for example. If a wealthy student doesn't get into their top school, no problem. Legacy admissions, private tutors, or a gap year abroad open new doors. But if you're the first in your family to apply and you get rejected, that no can be the end of the hallway. There's no backup plan, no safety net. Internships tell a similar story. Privileged students can take unpaid positions that lead to jobs at top firms. Students without resources can't work for free. One closed door means fewer connections and fewer future opportunities. And it's not just school. If your parents can cover rent or bills, you can take risks, move for a job, start a business, or bounce back after a setback. But if you're living paycheck to paycheck and lose your minimum wage job, that loss can spiral into debt, bad credit, eviction, or even losing custody of children. Suddenly, every future door is harder to unlock. And let's be clear, minimum wage jobs aren't just for teenagers picking up extra spending money, despite what some politicians love to claim. Across wealthy countries like the US, Canada, Australia, and the UK, millions of adults rely on minimum wage or near minimum wage jobs as their only income, many while supporting families. For them, losing one job is catastrophic. Meanwhile, doors swing open for the privileged not because of hard work, but because the hallways were built for them. This is what we mean when we say opportunity compounds for the privileged, while barriers compound for the poor. The more doors you start with, the more doors keep opening. And the fewer you start with, the faster they disappear. Real-world privilege, doors that others never saw. When we talk about doors opening for some and staying closed for others, nothing makes it clearer than real-life examples of people whose opportunities were stacked in their favor. Bill Gates. His story isn't just about genius or hard work. His mother, Mary Gates, served on the board of directors for IBM. That connection directly led to Microsoft's early contracts. One closed door in business never even existed for him. Mark Zuckerberg. Access to Harvard, elite computer labs, and a network of classmates and alumni few could ever imagine. That environment gave him resources, mentorship, and connections that helped Facebook scale far faster than a typical startup could. For most aspiring entrepreneurs without those networks, the same idea wouldn't even get off the ground. Jeff Bezos. To start Amazon, Bezos raised $250,000 from family and friends. Most families can't risk even a fraction of that amount. That initial financial backing opened a door that, for most people, simply doesn't exist. Notice the pattern. These weren't just lucky breaks. They were doors already built and unlocked. Someone with the same talent, but without these advantages, faces locked doors at every step. This is the reality behind the cliché. When one door closes, another doesn't automatically open. For those with privilege, it often does. For most others, the door never existed in the first place. Systemic barriers. Why doors stay closed? It's not just individual effort or luck that determines who gets doors and who doesn't. And this is exactly why we see such low social mobility. In countries like the US, Canada, the UK, and Australia, your parents' income strongly predicts your income as an adult. For example, studies show that in the US, only about 8% of people born in the bottom quintile make it to the top quintile as adults. In Canada, it's roughly 10%, and similar patterns exist in other wealthy nations. Education. Schools in wealthy neighborhoods have better funding, smaller class sizes, advanced courses, and more extracurriculars. Schools in low-income neighborhoods often face outdated materials, overcrowded classrooms, and underpaid teachers. That first door, access to quality education, is often locked before a student even has a chance. Housing, neighborhoods, and community mindset. Where you're born shapes access to resources, networks, and opportunity. But it's more than just funding or infrastructure. Community bias and pressure can also discourage people from leaving their small towns or neighborhoods, even when opportunities exist elsewhere. Many people internalize the message that elite colleges, big cities, or high-paying industries aren't for us, because generations of exclusion, discrimination, and systemic barriers have made these spaces feel out of reach and unwelcoming. A landlord's bias, limited local services, or the absence of safe public transport can also prevent someone from accessing opportunities, even when they exist. Employment and internships. Prestigious, high-paying jobs often rely on networks, unpaid internships, and referrals, pathways accessible mostly to those with money or connections. For marginalized workers, rigid schedules, precarious contracts, and discrimination can close multiple doors at once. Financial safety nets. Without family wealth, unexpected expenses, medical bills, car repairs, rent, can cascade into multiple closed doors. Bad credit, evictions, missed educational or career opportunities. Health and ability. Physical and mental health can create barriers many overlook. People with chronic illness, disabilities, or limited mobility face obstacles that literally block doors. Inaccessible buildings, unaffordable healthcare, or workplaces unwilling or unable to accommodate needs. For example, inaccessible public transit can prevent a qualified person from even reaching an interview. A lack of affordable adaptive technologies can block educational and career pathways. Other less recognized barriers. Digital access. Without reliable internet or computers, learning platforms and remote work opportunities are closed. Language and cultural barriers. Immigrants and non-native speakers may face doors locked due to accent bias, credential recognition, or systemic discrimination. Legal status. Criminal records, visa restrictions, or systemic policing can close doors before someone even has a chance. All these barriers compound, locking opportunities out of reach for most. Meanwhile, for the privileged, doors are wide, reinforced, and rarely close. And right now, as social safety nets erode in some countries, these disparities are getting worse, not better. The dangerous myth of equal opportunity. Right now, politicians, media, and cultural narratives keep pushing the idea that anyone can succeed if they just try hard enough. But this myth serves a purpose. It shifts blame onto the individual who's struggling, while justifying cuts to social programs and safety nets. The truth is clear. Opportunities aren't equal, and disadvantage compounds. Millions aren't failing because they're lazy or unmotivated. They're trapped in a system designed to favor the privileged. And here's the thing. The people pushing this myth are loud. They use it to paint safety nets as handouts and to shame those who need support. That's why we have to be just as loud. By talking about it, sharing it, and pushing back against the idea that struggling is a personal failure, we make it harder for those in power to ignore reality. So if this breakdown is hitting home, hit like and don't forget to subscribe. Because the louder we are together, the closer we get to real change. Solutions. How we can open doors for more people. We've seen how doors open for some and stay locked for others, and how systemic barriers compound, keeping opportunity out of reach for millions. The question is, how do we build hallways where doors exist for everyone, not just the privileged few? 1. Democratize networks and mentorship. Opportunities often rely on who you know. Expanding mentorship programs, networking access, and professional pipelines for underrepresented groups can create doors for those without inherited connections. 2. Equalize access to education. Fund under-resourced schools, scholarships for first-generation students, and paid internships remove structural blocks to opportunities. Programs that cover costs for transportation, digital access, and adaptive technologies help ensure doors aren't closed simply because someone lacks resources. 3. Remove physical and systemic barriers. Accessibility matters. Ramps, transit, adaptive tools, and inclusive design open doors for people with disabilities. Policies addressing discrimination, whether in housing, employment, or education, help prevent doors from closing arbitrarily. 4. Expand safety nets and reduce risk. Access to basic needs like healthcare, childcare, housing support, or UBI can prevent a single setback from closing multiple doors. Think of it as giving people the space to try, fail, and try again, just like privileged people get to do. 5. Cultural shift. Reframe opportunity. Society needs to challenge the myth that hard work alone guarantees success. Narratives that recognize systemic barriers help society build fairer opportunities. We don't need to guarantee that doors will never close. That's impossible. But we can make sure that doors exist in the first place. So, when one door closes, another one opens is only true if your hallway was built for you. The reality is clear. Opportunity isn't distributed equally. For most, doors are locked, barred, or hidden. Opportunity compounds for the privileged and vanishes for the marginalized. And right now, as inequality grows and social safety nets shrink, it's getting worse, not better. But here's the takeaway. We can change that. We can create systems, policies, and communities where more doors exist, where hallways are longer, and where falling behind doesn't mean falling off the edge. The first step, recognizing the truth about who actually has doors and who doesn't. The next step, speaking up, getting louder, and pushing back against the toxic narrative that opportunities are equal and that people who struggle simply don't deserve help. Those who spew that narrative are already loud. If we stay quiet, their version of reality wins. That's why we need to be just as loud. Louder, even. Right now, as rights and protections are being rolled back, silence isn't an option. Talking about it, sharing these realities, and refusing to be complacent matters more than ever. So, share this video. Help expand the conversation. Shine a light on the truth of our broken system, and bring awareness to those who need to see it.